Let's talk about Angela Rayner. So she's got this workers' rights bill. It's a sort of throwback to the 1970s, you know. So everybody gets the right to do about a three-hour week, and they all get £1 million and 15 weeks holidays and only 2 days work, you know, all that sort of stuff that isn't very realistic. The least realistic clause in her swirling mass of fantasy nonsense about workers' rights was the right to switch off. This would be the clause in which it would be illegal for bosses to expect their staff to be contactable outside of working hours. So bosses would be, by law, banned from trying to email their staff, give their staff a ring for anything that might crop up outside of business hours. Now, there's a lot of businesses that would need that. I mean, my job, my whole career, I had to be contactable, actually 24/7 if you want to know it, but that's journalism for you. But so many businesses, the bosses have got to have the right to, you know, phone up the foreman or whoever if they need to for the business. It's called the right to switch off. Angela wanted that to be made illegal. Anyway, humiliation for the Deputy Prime Minister because both the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Chancellor Reeves, Robert Reeves, Rachel from Accounts, and the pretend solicitor business secretary Jonathan Reynolds, who likes to pretend he was a solicitor, although he didn't qualify. Well, both of them have got rid of the right to switch off clause because they've been told by businesses this is mad. So it's gone. It's gone. It's going. Let's speak to Head of Campaigns at Popular Conservatism, Andrew Allison. Well, this is another moment, Andrew, where I think this Labour government, this idealistic Labour government, has been forced to confront reality. And just as Starmer did last week by diverting money from billions from our fatuous foreign aid budget into defence, we are not, or this government is not going to go along with this mad, insane right to switch off clause. Bosses will, after all, be able to contact their staff if they need to outside of work hours. And in what way, in what world would it have been sane to have anything else?
Well, there wouldn't, would there? As you've said, you had to be contactable as a journalist, pretty much 24/7. Me as a political campaigner, of course, messages come through. Messages come through at nearly midnight. I don't have to answer them. If I'm asleep, obviously, I don't answer them. And I answer them first thing in the morning. But the thing is, when you're running an operation, and especially if it's a smaller operation, then you have to get in touch with your staff. And most employers will try to avoid contacting their staff outside sort of reasonable hours anyway, you know, after 9 o'clock in the evening or, you know, before 6 a.m. or something like that. But there are times when that's needed. But this is simply an agreement that is made between the employer and the employee. And it's got absolutely nothing to do with government. But when you look at this employment rights bill, Kevin, gosh, there is page after page of more rules and regulations that are going to hit employers, such as flexible working, where employees are going to have the right twice a year to request flexible working. And then there's going to be statutory reasons why these things can be refused. It's just more and more red tape put onto employers. And I know employers who are saying, we're just not going to employ anybody else because it's just too much hassle. Now, how does that fit in with the government's growth agenda?
Exactly right. I mean, you know, they keep talking about growth. We were talking earlier about sort of crazy Ed Miliband's net zero madness. That stands right in the way of growth. And interestingly, if we think about the events over the weekend leading on from Friday in the White House Oval Office, you know, it looks as if Starmer, I don't know if he's going to get away with this, but he seems to be intent on leading us into more of this very expensive Ukraine war, and it looks as if we might start having to foot the bill ourselves. Britain taking most of the burden, billions and billions of pounds. How does that square with economic growth?
Well, the war in Ukraine is a completely separate issue, and I'm rather with Starmer, I'm afraid, on this one. I think that we do have to do everything that we can to help Ukraine.
Yeah, but what kind of practical help is there really going to be without America? I mean, if Starmer's just going to sort of spaff a load of our money pursuing this campaign in the East on our own with a couple of European countries, I don't think that would be a great use of our money.
It depends on how many of the European countries come on board, and of course it's very early days. But yes, we do need America on side.
Yeah, exactly.
And what happened on Friday was absolutely awful, and it shouldn't have happened. And it also highlights, I think, that normally when you have these type of negotiations, professional diplomats work behind the scenes, and all the politicians have to do is front up what has already been agreed. You certainly don't want to do that in front of the cameras. But we're living in a more dangerous world, and I mean, we've got the international aid budget that's, which I can't work out really, 0.7% of GDP. So if our GDP doubles, then we should automatically give twice as much money in aid. But if our GDP halves, then we should give half as much in aid. That just doesn't seem to make any sense to me at all. But I mean, there are savings that can certainly be made there. You know, the defence of the realm, Kevin, is the whole reason for government. I mean, it's their primary purpose is defence of the realm. And if we need to increase money on defence, which I think we certainly have to, then savings have to be made elsewhere. So we certainly can't increase taxes anymore, Kevin. I mean, taxes are getting up to almost a record high.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? And this is why this story, I mean, in itself is interesting, you know, the axing of the right to switch off. This is because a lot of business leaders, company owners and directors have told Jonathan Reynolds, the pretend solicitor business secretary, and Rachel from accounts, that this is just otherworldly. This is not planet Earth. You know, of course, bosses, you can't make it illegal for a boss to have to get hold of his foreman at 9 o'clock at night for some emergency or even for something normal. I mean, you know, this is ridiculous. So I just think what's interesting about this story, because it's like what Starmer had to do with the foreign aid budget and defence, is that, and it will be like what they're going to have to do with Ed Miliband and net zero. This Labour government, with all its idealistic, highfalutin student politics kind of vision and ideas for what it wanted to do to make us such an enlightened socialist society, is finding out in the real world none of this claptrap works. And you've got to do practical, plausible things to make this country work, and that's why I think this story is interesting. It's the latest in a long line of our Labour government being confronted with and having to collide with reality, and I think that's quite an encouraging direction. If Keir Starmer is going to react sensibly to these situations, then slowly he can be dragged kicking and screaming into reality.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, as I said at the beginning of this interview, Kevin, you know, businesses are already finding it hard to keep in business, to continue trading. There are plenty of laws and regulations that protect workers. We don't need a whole raft more, which is what this particular employment rights bill is doing. But I mean, when you talk about net zero, I read a report yesterday that Ed Miliband maybe shown the exit.
Yeah, we did that story a little earlier. On our knees praying.
Well, I think we all are, because if we want to see where we can save some money, and you look at the tens of billions of pounds that's being poured into this net zero nonsense, then why can't some of that money be put towards defence as well? You know, it's all about priorities and how we spend our money. I think that the government is showing signs of a reality, you know, experiencing a reality check here.
Exactly right.
But it's only early signs at the moment, Kevin.
Yeah, let's not get carried away with it. But
no, I would never get too carried away. Not with Starmer and Miliband.
Yeah, but we have to grab onto the small green shoots. You never know. Andrew, fantastic to talk to you as always. Thank you for your time. Andrew Allison, the head of campaigns at Popular Conservatism.